Welcome to the Elokus channel. This is class number 5 in the second discourse, Oteh Salma, of the great book, B'Shasha Hegdimu 5672. So we are learning over here about, we're in the middle of chapter 5 of the entire book. It's the first chapter in the second Maamor. In any case, we've been studying in last class about how the lights match the vessels, the vessels and the lights match with each other, and how the vessel has to be appropriate for the light, and the same above as well in the limbs of the supernal man, and how the primary mochen, for example, he's giving an example from the intelligence. How the mochen, the light of the intelligence, registers in the kelim, in the vessels of the Chabad, of the Chachma bin Adas, which are the first three spheros, the first three attributes of Atzilus. They're called Gimel Rishonais, the first three. However, the intelligence will not register in the lower 7 attributes, which are the 6 emotions and Malchus. Over there, you don't have the revelation of the mochen, of the light of the divine intelligence, because it's not a vessel for it. And these lights, these or pnimi, the internal light, needs a vessel. This is the general idea. He's challenging himself in the same way we did the same type of challenge when we spoke about the human experience, as we discussed earlier. That in the human experience as well, he asked the question that we see that sometimes some of the intelligence goes and doesn't only stay in the head, it goes all the way down through the various different limbs of the body to bring intelligent behavior, or even down to the feet. So the question would be the same above. Like we find that there is wisdom in the lower elements. There's intelligence in the lower elements. And the last thing we were learning is that there is intelligence in the emotions and even all the way down in Malchus. Malchus is the final, it's considered the legs of Atzilus, the legs of the spheros, of the attribute. And yet, even in the leg, there is Chachma. And then the last idea we learned was the concept that it says, Kulam b'Chachma asisa, that with wisdom God made the world, which means the intelligence that there is in creation is the intelligence of Malchus. It's not the intelligence of God's mind, of God's brain, it's the intelligence of God's feet. Malchus is called the feet. It's the intelligence of the leg. So before we go further, let's go to the parentheses a minute over here. He mentioned that Malchus is called feet. So we can either come back to the parentheses at the end of the class, or I might as well just do it right now. Why is Malchus called the leg? So the feet in the person, he brings over here are two elements about the feet. One thing about the person's legs is that your legs are at your bottom of your body. And the reason they are at the bottom of the body, which means at the very lowest point of the body, is because in quality they are the lowest part of the body, which means they are the most unsophisticated part of the body, which means the lowest powers of a person are enclosed in the feet. The more refined powers don't go into the feet, they stay above. You can't compare the power of movement, which is the power of the feet, the power to walk, with the sophistication of the brain and of vision or speech, or even the experiences that take place in the middle of the person's body. They're more elevated powers. Feet is movement, which is and more coarse movement, like we discussed already earlier, that in the hand you can do more delicate type of work, delicate art. But with the feet, it's more chunkier type of movement. Even that could be trained, like we learned. But that's the general idea. So in that sense, we can understand that Malchus, being that it's the final attribute, it's the divine attribute that's closest to the finite creation, and as a result of that, it's at the bottom. Now, that's the idea, similar to the feet. But there's another point, and that's what he says over here in the parentheses. That's mainly because what the feet are not. They're not sophisticated, they're not refined, and therefore they're at the bottom. But now we're going to look at the feet being for what they are, positive. And that is that the feet have a quality that they can bring the person to all kinds of places, to all places. Without the feet, the person would be relegated kind of to where they are. They wouldn't be able to move too far beyond themselves. They wouldn't be able to influence too far. Their feet carry them to other places. In that sense, and that the feet can do, and the head can't do it. The head can have the inspiration, the head can have the guidance, but it can't actually take the person to the next town. For that, you need to walk. You need your feet to bring you there, unless you get assistance from someone else. But if you want to go there yourself, You need to use your legs. So the legs can bring a person to a place where otherwise they wouldn't be able to go. So we have to see that in the divine attribute of Malchus as well. It brings God, it brings the godliness to places farther away. And that's the idea. He says that Malchus is the power to reveal God in the next stage, in the next world. In general, through the Malchus, Hashem enters into and reveals himself into creation. Malchus, just to briefly, serves as an enormous filter that filters out the infinity of God and allows for a tiny trickle that which is possible for the creations to receive. If there wouldn't be the interface of Malchus, if there wouldn't be the filter of Malchus, the screen of Malchus, then the energy would be purely infinite and godly, and it would not be receivable in creation at all. Creations could not touch that light at all. So Malchus is always the channel through which God reveals himself. That's why I know we're referring to Malchus as the feet, but sometimes we refer to Malchus as the mouth. And just like the mouth is the point of revelation, you exit yourself and you transmit to someone else through your power of speech. So too, Malchus is called Peh, it's called the mouth, because through the mouth, God communicates of himself to the next world. In that same vein, we can refer to Malchus as feet, because they can transmit and bring God down to the next world. That's what he says in the parentheses. Let's read it inside. Malchus is also called the leg, because through the Malchus, and because with her, with the Malchus, and through her, the revelation is drawn into the next world. And it's really every world, from world to world, whenever we have to channel to the next level, that means not within one particular world itself to another feature, but to bring it into the whole new realm, which is a new world, it transmits, it must go through the Malchus. As it is known, the Malchus of Gilui, Malchus is the revelation. Now he says, in worlds it works that way, but even from attribute to attribute, which means within each world itself, to come from one stage to the next stage, it always will move through the Malchus of that stage. Because remember that in these mystical writings, in these teachings, in these realms, we find that every level exists as an independent entity and also as part of, in other words, everything contains everything. So for example, in Atzilus, we say the world of Atzilus has 10 Sefirot, and in order for the divine attribute to flow, the Or Ein Sof that flows through the Sefirot to come down into the next world, the world of Bria, it will funnel through Malchus, and Malchus is the spigot, so to speak, that receives the energy from above and transmits it to the next world. That's the general Malchus. But then every sphere itself, for example, let's take the attribute of kindness. Kindness, remember we learned yesterday that we learned the right hand is kindness, and we said that in the right hand there are 3 parts to the hand, and the upper arm, and then the middle center of the hand, and all the way down to the wrist. So you see that there are parts to the kindness. So in that vein, every sphera is a composite of all the sphirot. So in kindness itself, there is the intelligence of the kindness, the emotions of the kindness, and there is the malchus of the kindness. So in order for any energy of kindness to move its way down from kindness to the next sphera, let's say from chesed to gevura, it will need, if it's flowing that way, it would need to pass through the channel, the malchut element of chesed. And for it to go from gevura down to teferes, it will need to go through the malchus element of the gevura. It's the speech of every level. It's the point of communication. It's the exit. It's the only exit that there is. For an energy to exit onward lower, it must always move through the malchus of that thing. So again, it can go from chesed to gevura, or sometimes chesed passes to netzach, because netzach is below the chesed. How will chesed pass down to netzach? Also through the malchus of the chesed. That's the way it works. So that's what he's saying over here. Shegam agilu be'eses sfiras gufa. Because also the revelation of the 10 spheres itself, Mahasfira al Yaina, from the upper sphera, Ela Tachtona to the lower one, Hu al Yedei Malchus, always passing through the Malchus. Vashem ze nikra regel, and that's the reason why Malchus is called the leg, Sheba, which with the leg, Val Yada, and through the leg, Through your feet, a person can move from place to place. So all godly transport and all movement of the Ein Sof to move from level to level, it's always through the Malchus, which reveals one level into the next level, one world into the next world. So for that reason, Malchus is also called the feet. So this is parenthetical, because we just mentioned, because this is all part of the idea. Remember, it's always so important when we learn over here to keep on not lose, when we're examining a tree, we shouldn't lose the forest for the tree. The general thrust of what he's talking about over here is trying to figure out the Or Pnimi, how every Or Pnimi matches with a particular vessel. And the Moichen, the intelligence, sit in the brain. He's challenging that. He says, well, isn't there Moichen, isn't there divine intelligence in the lowest spheres? Like we see that it goes down lower. Now we go a few lines. Let's read over here. Right after the parenthesis, even though we learned this line yesterday, but let's just for the sake of continuity, let's continue. He's saying that in the feet there is also mochen. Where do we see it? This is the idea of the chachma, wisdom of the work of creation. The kulam b'chachma asisa, because as the verse says in Psalms and Tehillim, it says that all of creation, you made it with intelligence. What does this mean? This doesn't mean you, an intelligent being, made it. It means it was intelligent actions. The actions themselves were intelligent. Not just an intelligent being did an action. Bechachma asisa, you made it with intelligence. So the intelligence is infused in the action. So he explains, what does that mean? That's the chachma that there is in Maaseh Bereshis. Shenimshach, the intelligence, the light of the mind, of Hashem's Chabad, of Hashem's Mochen, where it goes down lower, umislabish, and became enclosed bizah in the 6 emotions, and even further down, like we discussed yesterday, what Ze'eram means, the 6 emotions, and even further down, Malchus, and even into the final attribute, which is Malchus. Why? Because the Sheishas Yamim Asa Hashem, because when Hashem created the world, it says 6 days God created. He wants to show us how the emotions are involved in creation. See, Hashem's chachma, pure intelligence, God's brains are infinitely above the creation. And the level of that intelligence is way superior to the intelligence in creation. And it says in general that God's intelligence is not vested in creation. It's not enclosed in creation. The chachma of Hashem, the Chabad, is infinite. When I say, and even though we're arguing now there is intelligence in creation, yes, it's the nether intelligence, as we're soon going to see. It's the intelligence of the feet, but not the intelligence of the mind. God's intelligence of the mind is the wisdom of the Torah, not the wisdom of creation. So, so that's why we also know that it says in many places, and we learn it, that that the Chabad, the Chachma bin Adas, is kadma la'olam. That's why we say the Torah precedes the world. It's too infinite. It's too boundless for the creation. The worlds could not be created directly from it, or else it would be infinite. The creation would be infinite. So the light of the Mochen is above the world, but the emotions of God, they actually are the energy of creation. Hashem interacts with the world directly. Not directly, we'll see in a moment. He interacts, however, with the world from his emotions. His emotions pour into creation and are very much part of the coming into being of the cosmic order. They're coming about through the divine emotions with the energy of his emotions. That's why the Zohar explains, it says, Sheishes Yamim Masa Hashem, 6 days God made. It doesn't say in 6 days God made. If it wants to say just that it took God 6 days to make, it should have said, B'sheishes Yamim Asa Hashem. In 6 days of time, God created. The Zohar asks, it says, Sheishes Yamim Asa Hashem. 6 days God made. So it's just linguistically incorrect. So the Zohar says, because the Torah is hinting to and teaching us like this, the 6 days, they are the divine. A day represents a revelation. The day are the emotions are God's revelations. They're called day. So the 6 days means the 6 divine emotions, Asa Hashem. It's with these emotions God created heaven and earth. Sunday, when God created Sunday, it was a creation of kindness. The kindness of God was active and creating the creations of Sunday. That's why Sunday God made light. Light is kindness. On Monday, the primary emotion of God that was active and interacting and involved in creation was God's attribute of discipline and judgment. That's why Monday is a little bit of a gloomy day, a dark day. People don't like Mondays. It's a harsh day. And Hashem created separation. That's what judgment is, separation, discipline. Hashem disciplined the waters. He separated the upper waters from the lower waters. He set boundaries. That's what discipline is all about. It's a tough day. Tuesday, Hashem used Tiferes to create the world. That's why harmony was created on that day. Hashem made the world beautiful. Tiferes is beauty. Trees grew, vegetation, so on and so forth. I'm not going to go through all the 6 days of creation. The 6 days, the emotions themselves poured into creation. And that's why there are 6 days of creation, because it's the 6 emotions. So and if God would have also created the world with his intelligence, if the intellect would be engaged directly with the world, then there would be 10 days to creation, because there were 10 sephirot, the 3 intellectual spheres as well. But the fact that there was only 6 days in time, 7th day, which is Shabbos, which is the Malchus, indicates that the actual creation encompasses and has within it emotional energy and the energy of Malchut, but not the energy of the intelligence. However, we do know that what? It says, B'chachma asisa, that with wisdom he created, implying that the wisdom is engaged in creation. So that's why he's explaining. The wisdom that's in creation is not the brain of the brain, it's the brain of the heart. The 6 emotions are in the heart and in the two hands, as we discussed yesterday, 2 arms and the torso. So it's the intelligence of the hands, or the intelligence of the heart, not the intelligence of the intelligence. So let's read it inside. The these are the 6 midos, the 6 emotions of the Zeir Anpin. Prat. And if you want to get more specifically, when it says 6 days he created, to a certain degree we can say that even the 6 emotions themselves are superior to creation, because the emotions of God are also infinite and too vast and too powerful for the creations to handle, for the creations of time and space to be able to withstand. So therefore, when it says, behold, didn't we say 6 days he created? It's a lower level of the 6 days. It's the emotions, but the emotions as they are part of the next sphera, the sphera of Malchus. It's the attribute of kingship, the attribute of Malchus, which Malchus itself is its own parts of, which means Malchus itself is its own configuration. It includes 10 sephirot, and within those 10 sephirot, it has within it the 6 emotions. So when it says 6 days he created, it's the 6 days of the Malchus. It's the emotions of Malchus, which of course the emotions of Malchus are far, far, far tinier and smaller than the emotions of the Zeir Anpin, the emotions themselves. The Zeir Anpin is the man, Malchus is the woman, the Shekhinah. She is tiny and small in comparison to her husband, to the masculine element of the divine, which is the more infinite dimension. So again, the intelligence, forget about it, is completely outside of creation, above and beyond creation. Now the emotions over here, we can speak already, 6 days God created. But to be more specific, he says, it's the 6 emotions as they become contracted and they become transmitted into Malchus, and they become the emotions of the Malchus. It's like the difference between a person's emotion in their heart and the emotion that you put into speech. When you talk, you can convey some of your emotion in your words. And depending, sometimes a person cracks up when they talk and you can really, really feel that. But usually if you can't talk. When the emotion becomes too intense, a person they choke up and they can't talk, right? We hear that sometimes. And it usually moves us very deeply when a person talks that way, because you can feel the emotion. But a little bit of emotion, if it's contained, could come through in speech. And then it's very warm speech. You can feel the love, you can feel the compassion, you can feel the discipline, whatever the energy is of the emotion. But you can't compare that to the emotion as it is in its own space, the emotion in the heart, in the inner world of the person, not in the speech. Malchus, since Malchus is speech, so the emotions of Malchus is a much lower level of emotions. So it says 6 days God created. It can either mean the 6 days of the Zeir Anpin, or more specifically, it's the 6 days of Malchus. However, why are we talking about this? And over here we say that in this level there is some intelligence as well. Kulam b'chachma asisa. The wisdom of these 6 days, of these 6 emotions that are in the Malchus. Let's read it. Ubederech pratan midah shebemalchus. And more specifically, they are the midos that are in the Malchus. V'yesh b'hem, and they have within them hislapshus. They have within them, where are we over here? Hislapshus hamoichin. The intelligence becoming clothed in them. Shazeu inyan. This is the idea of kulam b'chachma asisa. Everything you created with chachma. Al Shem Zeh. Now, this is so pivot. This is so important to Malchus, that Malchus has wisdom. Shas Shem Zeh Nikra HaMalchus. Sometimes in Kabbalah we find, in Zohar we find that Malchus itself is called chachma. It's called wisdom. The attribute of wisdom, the word chachma is sometimes attributed to Malchus. However, we have to be careful. When we say Malchus is chachma, it's not chachma, it's chachma tata. It's the lower wisdom. In Atzilus, in the world of emanation and the divine attributes, there is chachma ilah, the higher chachma. You probably, if you've hung around a little with the teachings of Chassidus, you've heard sometimes the phrase chachma ilah, the supernal chachma. So generally, we can think that term is coming to differentiate it, that it's God's wisdom. So it's the most high wisdom, as opposed to the wisdom of a creation, which would be chachma, a lower wisdom. But over here we're learning, no, within the divine realm itself, it's coming to differentiate. There is the chachma ilah, the real attribute of chachma, which is the first of the 10 spheros. That's chachma ilah. And then there is the chachma tata, which is the lower wisdom. What is that? Malchus. The attribute of Malchus is a super intelligence. It's where all the intelligence of all of creation, it's all designed in Malchus. It's boundless wisdom. So why is it called the lower wisdom? Because compared to the higher wisdom, it's absolutely nothing. It's literally meaningless. That's how it's insignificant it is. The chachma tata, the lower chachma. Oh, but what do you see from here? That you see that chachma, wisdom, is so present in Malchus that sometimes we refer to Malchus as chachma. So how can we say that there's no wisdom in Malchus? So he explains. How can we say that the intelligence, the or haseichel, the light of the divine intelligence, the or hamoichin, is only shining in the Chabad? And the same answer we learned earlier regarding the human experience, the same answer applies above as well. It's not the internal essence of the mochin. It's only a ray of the mochin. It's not the essence of the mochin, of the intelligence. Mislapshin bizun. The higher emotions are not enclosed in zun. Zun is an acronym for zuchra nukva, male and female, which means the male is, as we discussed earlier, the 6 emotions are called the masculine side of God. There's a Anpin, like we called it earlier. And Nukva, the female, is Malchus. So he's saying the essence of the Mochin does not enclose itself in the Zuchra Nukva. Only the Chitzoni is only the external, an array of the Mochin. Like we explained earlier, b'mashal, like we explained in the human experience, that in a human experience, the mochin, the intelligence that goes into our emotions, are only the external part of our mochin, and then the intelligence that goes into our motor powers, which is our hands, v'regel, and our feet, that's not just external, it's the external of the external. It's the ray of the ray. It's intelligence, but it's the intelligence of action. It's not abstract, real, deep intelligence. It's like if we were to, if it's like, imagine Albert Einstein one day got stuck in a room and he couldn't open the lock, and he figured out a device to pick the lock. And he made an invention. Is anybody going to say that the deep mind of Einstein, who is expressed in this little gadget that he created to be able to pick the lock? It's cool that he did that, but that's his lowest. It's the tail end of his intelligence. So the same as, but it's not even the same. Meaning, it's not like it's a lot of intelligence, a little bit of intelligence. It's like it's the nothing part of his intelligence. It's the malchus of his intelligence. It's the maisa. It's the action element of the intelligence. And the same is also, now we're just going to use Kabbalistic terms to apply the same concept above. Is also applied above. The mochen, the intelligence of Zucher and Nukva, of the male and female, which is Malchus and the spheres above it, it's not the essence of the mochen, kima lavad, only a ray. And as it is known, he's going to now use phrases from Arizal, from Eitz Chaim, which prove this idea. As it is known, the Nehi, the Ema, that the Netzach Hod Yesod of the mother, so Chachma is called father. Remember the Mochen are Chabad, 3. Chachma Bina Das. Chachma is called father, Bina is called mother. I'm not going to go into it right now because it's not important for today's class. But Chachma is called father. I'm sure there will be enough opportunity to discuss this. Chachma is called father and Bina is called mother. So that's the real Mochen, Chachma and Bina. But it says in Arizal that only the Netzach Hod Yesod of Ema, of the mother. What does that mean? Remember, every sphera contains all the attributes. So the Bina, the power of God's understanding, a superpower of the divine intelligence, contains within it all 10 spheros. The lowest part of the Bina is the Netzach Hod Yesod. That's the bottom, that's the tail end of the Bina. So we say like this, only the Netzach Hod Yesod of Ema, Nasim Moichen, become the brains, Lizah, to the Zeir Anpin. That means that the Zeir Anpin, which is the 6 emotions, doesn't have privy, doesn't have an experience of Bina. Bina is way above it. Remember, we said earlier, the 6 emotions could to some degree interact with the world, and the Chabad is infinite. So of course it's way beyond it. It's the lowest part of Bina, which is the Netzach Hod Yesod of Bina, becomes the super mind of Zeir Anpin. And then we take it a step further. The Netzach Hod Yesod, the Zeir Anpin, and the 3 lowest spheros of the Zeir Anpin, the bottom third of the Zeir Anpin, Nasa Moichen Lenukva. When it goes to Malchus, it becomes further reduced. And he passes on to his wife. He passes on to Malchus only his Netzach Hod Yesod, and that becomes her brains. In it, there is some ray and some radiance of the 6 emotions of Bina that radiate. Only a ray of it. But this is only an external radiance and the level of the external level of the mochen. V'atzmis ha-mochen, and the essence of the mind, and begimul rishaynos dafka, are only in the first 3 in the Chabad. Okay, we're going to stop over here because we made a decision not to go ever over a half an hour. Everybody have a wonderful Shabbos. And remember, on Shabbos, we are elevated into the mochen itself, not just into the mochen of Zeir Anpin. We go all the way up into the mochen, into Chachma, not even to Bina, into Chachma itself. Awesome Shabbos. Everybody should have an incredible Shabbos, and we should see Mashiach today.